Hello and welcome to FinTech Impact. I'm your host, Jason Pereira. Today on the show, I have Tom Fields, CEO of Fynancial, and that's financial with a Y. We can make the joke as to why he spelled it that way shortly. But Fynancial is a a platform for advisors that actually helps them own part of the real estate that we have not owned to date, which is real estate on the client's phone for jobs to be done. He does much more than that, but to me, that's the most compelling, the compelling case for his platform. And with that, here's my interview with Tom. Tom, thanks for taking time today.
Hey, Jason, real pleasure. I think we first met maybe a couple years ago, but just honored to be here.
No, I nag people to death until they finally come on. Either that or your PR people eventually get to me. So Tom Fields of Fynancial. Tell us about Fynancial.
Yeah, so you mentioned it. I've had the great pleasure of running Fynancial, spelled with a Y. We're based out of Kentucky, and the joke is we can't even spell the word financial, F-Y-N. But yes, for Fynancial, we work with some of the best names in wealth management so they can tell their clients, just go to our app for everything. And so if you want an app that's branded for your company, where your clients can click a button on their phone, see their numbers they care about, but actually talk with you or the advisor, we're your place.
Excellent. And we'll get into this, but as I said in the intro, to me, one of the single biggest own goals that this industry has ever done is that it's ignored real estate on the most important device in everyone's life. For every other job to be done, everything else of meaning and importance, there is a little square box that I hit that basically starts the interaction, the journey of that job to be done. But when it comes to your financial advisor, where do you go? And a lot of what exists in the marketplace today has been portfolio management platforms or whatever else, just letting people check their balances and not answering the question of how do we bring the engagement level to that application to actually give them what they need when they want with us. So let's talk about first and foremost about your journey and how the company came to be.
Yeah, so I was an advisor for about 5 years and just went through a lot of the pain that now Fynancial solves. And so the origin story here, this was right after COVID. And one day I was actually fired by my largest client. So 13% of my book, very bad day, not fun. And I reached out to that client and I just said, hey, I'm just curious, like what happened here? And what he said was the game changer for me. He said, Tom, it wasn't like you underperformed, your planning was off. It was, I just haven't heard from you in 6 months.
Number one reason people leave. Number one reason today people leave. And I will say, you lost them because of 6 months. That is actually an incredibly high bar in our industry, right? The reality is when people say I left them because I never hear from them, we're talking 24 months normally. So you got a demanding client, fair is fair, but talk to me about how you reacted.
Yeah. So here's the thing is that, and hopefully advisors out here, you know, your largest clients, your most profitable clients, 6 months, you're probably getting nervous. And so it wasn't like I didn't speak with this individual for 6 months. This is what I was doing. I've always believed in sharing your voice. So I would post to LinkedIn. I even was making educational videos for like next gen and just education. So I had a YouTube channel. He was a business owner. So I was sending specific emails around business ownership to my business owner clients. This is pretty straightforward. The problem is that he didn't see any of it clearly because LinkedIn has an algorithm we can't control. YouTube has ads. No one goes there. And email, it is 10 times worse now, but it's filled with spam. And so there's two things. Two, I didn't own my distribution platform. I couldn't get his attention essentially with a Outlook notification or hoping LinkedIn would service me or try to guide him with a link to like a YouTube. Email, I've said this when I started the company, and I think the marketplace is starting to realize it now. There's a lot of, I would say, ceilings that hold advisors back. I would say that email is the reason individuals have a growth problem, have a client referral problem. We're relying on the channel that every single business uses to try to solicit our clients' attention. Every single business. Why would you want to use a channel like that? The advisor's voice is what's most important. We're a service-based business. Relationship first. So you have to figure out a way to make it easier to get in front of the client and for them to actually message you back. Period.
Okay. So not surprising, the client, you nailed it. It's where the client lives, right? And too much of this that was just a mismatch of your communication methodologies versus theirs and live and learn. So when you had that kind of jarring response, how'd you regroup? Where did your thinking lead to this company?
Yeah, I took a look at our website, and at the time we had an e-money, right, link. We had a Black Diamond link. We had even a fake phone number for texting. We also had a secure file link. We had just all these different places. We had to tell them to go schedule here for the schedule meeting, all these different places for a client to go. And at the same time, I'm able to click an app on my phone and book a meeting with my barber I paid $20 for a month or something like that, right? I just was like, is there a solution that one, and this is what's most important, it has to be the RA's brand. So can I get a white labeled app? Second, it has to be connected to the tech stack because it can't be another login. So is there a white labeled app that can integrate planning and performance and CRM together? And third is why can't these current platforms allow for communication? And so when I searched for white labeled app integrated and allows you to talk with clients, there was nothing. Now building this company, I realized why, because it's really hard, but that's exactly what we do. And when I realized there was a massive void, that's when there's a lot of steps to get here. I fell on my face so many different times. We've had the wins, the losses, but here we are in 2026 and we serve firms that are managing hundreds of billions of dollars. And it's just been an awesome journey.
Okay, so let's talk about the experience, and let's talk about it from most importantly from the client experience. Client has this app on their phone, and what are the things that's going to drive them to actually engage with the application?
Absolutely. And so I always say this is that even if you had an app that was white labeled that just showed the numbers and graphs, a client actually probably still wouldn't really use that, right? Because maybe if they're nervous, they would go. But what drives them to actually open up the app is what I call the red dot, a push notification. And you get folks in when you're actually communicating with them. So you're being proactive around maybe what's happening in Iran right now. You're being proactive with a reminder to upload their tax return. You're being proactive to just reach out and say, hey, how was vacation? Whatever that might be. And so when you actually engage with the client and they get that buzz in their pocket, and then they can click Face ID through and respond or learn from a source of truth, that's why they continue to come in. It's actually the engagement that really drives the activation and the usage, but obviously the numbers and the graphs and the numbers that are important to them certainly matters.
So that's what they see. They see information, they see communication, they see a push notification. Everybody's used to having those things push on their phone. We're used to that. Talk to me about how the advisor proactively uses that technology as a means of communication. Like, what am I pushing to them? How am I pushing them? How is it not just the noise that we all get from our phones and apps constantly?
So let's just take what's happening recently with just macroeconomic. Gas for me right now is $4. So there's just a lot of fear around what is to come. And so one way to just get as an advisor, and again, clients pay that advisor money because they trust them with one of their most sacred resources of their life, which is money. They want to hear the source of truth from them, not clicking Facebook and reading like a clickbait article. And so simply just getting out in front of it. So, on March, I think it was 9th, the Monday. So that was the Monday after, what happened over the weekend. Activation, our platform soared because what these folks did was it could be a simple message. It could be a recent blog that they wrote. It could be a quick little video of them taking a selfie and saying, hey, I know you're nervous. You probably saw what happened over the weekend, but we want to let you know that we're here to help. And we built this plan for you to actually get through this turbulence. And so when you are proactive and you're able to engage clients and then make it easy for them to actually respond, again, it's just having a conversation. Just like we don't email our friends, we text them. And that's the same kind of experience you want to provide to your clients.
Absolutely. And again, especially we look at this generationally, right?
Yep.
The reality is that there are, generations more likely, older generation is more likely to call for anything.
Yep.
But then there's like this trade-off spot where you have your clients opting in to message you. And that's a separate issue altogether because of security issues.
Yep.
So the reality is that clients want to communicate with you the way they want to communicate with you. And we have to provide that. Now let's talk about the compliance issue that comes up with that, because how many times have we seen fines for communication in non-monitored channels just because, and I get it, client decides to send you a message on your WhatsApp account, on your text, whatever else it is, you don't get to dictate where they contact you.
Yep.
And it's a really broken experience to switch them over. But talk to me about A, how you provide a compliance solution, and B, how you kind of incentivize or make them think about utilizing you as the method of conduit of choice.
So messaging is just a feature. That's the way I look at this. Meaning it's like you can give them the fake phone number, but then maybe they continue to text the real one. They don't get it. They don't realize the SEC and the fines and the liability here.
Our problem, not theirs.
And again, go to the app for everything. And so why would they want to change habits? Because they can do a lot more. They can view their net worth. They can upload documents. They can actually see the list of to-dos that you assign them after the meeting. So they can actually get things done and then the plan moves forward. So there's a lot more than this just being essentially a place to communicate. I would say that just messaging alone, that's just like a feature. But when you add that feature that's very important to the whole other combined experience, and again, make it easy by saying, go here, clients go there. But I do want to bring up another point around just, I guess, one, to answer your question, how do we actually do this? And this is where, from a technical perspective, it gets pretty challenging, is the reason why the CRM is so important is because that's what we use to onboard clients. That's the source of truth. Like we want to be pegged there. And like the name of the client and the CRM is the name in the app, the address, all that information. But also any message that is actually sent from client needs to go back into the CRM, but it also has to go into the archival. And so what we're really smart, there's a lot of different ones we integrate with, but it's not just making it easy for the client to actually message advisor, is we have to package that up and then deliver it back to the technology that the enterprise is used to using for them to stay compliant and to make sure that everyone within the org is up to date on those client conversations.
So you're taking care of all of the back end stuff so that we don't have to worry about it effectively.
That's it.
So talk to me about the success stories, your clients in particular, like the clients or your advisors' clients. What's the feedback you're getting from them in terms of just user friendliness, happiness, all of it?
Yeah. So let's just start with, because this is important, is like, how do we measure success? One is we want clients upon activation and launch to essentially be like, this is awesome. And that's a great win. And that happens. So essentially, I can't mention the actual end client, but it's a very important professional hockey player, which is really cool because I love hockey. And he messaged the advisor rep back and he said, advisor name, you blank explicit word, killed it with this one. And so that is so cool that you got a guy who's very important now is going to share with his teammates, has something to show off of how the advisor he's working with is making his life more simple and easy. And so that's like goal number one. And then if you think about organic growth, like I say, there's two ways to grow any business: make our current clients more profitable or going to get new ones. So start on the first one. And the problem right now, again, I feel the pain for an advisor, is if you're trying to get more wallet share or market the estate planning you do or the tax services, et cetera, it's just hard to, what I say, build the demand for it. Like we have to segment a list and then go to email and hope people open it. We had a firm, they're using, this is like very niche, but they're using levered long short strategies. And so essentially this kind of strategy makes sense when someone has a liquidation event because they put a ton of money in, it ramps up the tax loss harvesting, and the client still participates in the market, but there's no tax bill due. That's ideal. And so they're able to actually talk about what the strategy is, how it works, like the liquidity, just the mechanics of it, and make sure it only appeared to the clients that this makes sense for them to learn about. And what happened was a client was able to then message the advisor and say, this sounds really interesting. I actually have a liquidation event coming up. Can we talk? And so they put a very good amount of money in this strategy. Fast forward, it was like 7 months later, this client, I heard this from the CEO, still had the $2 million he thought he was going to pay for taxes in a checking account, whatever. And they're like, oh, no, you're good. You don't owe any taxes on this, whatever. Go buy a home, do whatever you want. Incredible win. And so that's like an example of like, how do we let people know about our stuff more in regards to current clients? In order to get new ones, we just make client referrals easier. And so referrals are the lifeblood. We want more referrals, and it's too hard for current clients to actually refer your business. There's just too many steps. And so you got to give them something that they can show. And then you got to make it easy for them to say, hey, if you just want to scan here, book a meeting, or they can text the link out to the friend, and then that friend can book a meeting or actually just access the app. Because we want to show that prospect what it feels like to be a client. We don't always just want to try to book a meeting. It's still a stranger talking to a stranger. I love marketing and I love all things growth. So that's part of the fun that I get to do working with clients.
Fantastic. So how advisors said this has moved the needle for them. That's the client basis. What are they, how happily have they embraced what you've done?
Yeah, it's such a good point. And so I feel like a lot of times the leadership, and let's just say for larger firms, they're like, love, okay, we can take all of these leads, we convert them more. And advisors this just saves me time. I can now, if I need to schedule a meeting with a client, I can do that like that. After a client meeting, I'm not saying I need you to upload your tax return and we talked about an intro to your attorney or whatever it is. And then, hey, reminder for the tax return, or hey, now we're just following up. And so just them being able to give them a simple to-do list. So again, they can remind them with a push notification. The client can upload the tax return via it gets done. Advisors just love how efficient it is to actually get their clients' attention. That's always the biggest one.
Well, I have no doubt anything that helps in that regard and a positive note is always going to be well received. Good
Yep.
stuff. Okay, that's how far you've come thus far. Where else do you see this going?
Yeah, this is really the framework I say. It's really AI plus data plus delivery. And so since inception of the company in June of 2023, and fast forward to where we're at now, we have worked so hard on the pipes for our integrations and e-money. And then you got Orion, Black Diamond, Tamarack, Adapar, Salesforce, and all the overlays and Wealthbox and Redtail. And so essentially we have bulk data with many of them. And so we have this data. And we also have an incredible way to deliver advice. What we're doing is partnering with best in class AI. And so really excited about the work we're doing with Hamachi, which is Eric Clark, Brian, Mike. Those guys are so bright. Their product's incredible. But now in a real way, you have the ability to click a button and generate, hey, out of my book, here are the opportunities that I should focus on today. This is, if I could just get this done, like I would have a good day. And all that is AI hitting good data, giving the client or the advisor the to-do list. And now you can actually go out to the clients and get it done. And that's the next phase for us, is really this AI data and delivery type of framework, because that's what really the market wants, being able to talk to their book, but then more importantly, take action on it and get it done.
Yeah. And I think the reality is if you're becoming both the integration and communication layer, then you have enough intelligence to be the next best action layer as well. Makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah. And this is where it gets really fun. And so next best action, let's just say like other providers have it. What we have is the ability to ding the advisor with a push notification, right? And so we're talking push notification on their app, going to them and saying, here are the clients you haven't spoke with in 90 days. Click. Message is already essentially formed. You can edit it. Would you like to send it out to those clients? Yes. And then I don't know if you've seen Slack. Did you use Slack at all?
Yes, because if I use Teams, I want to kill myself. But continue.
That Slack has this feature. It's essentially catch up. Okay. So if you click the button at the top left there, Slack, it brings up like these windows, right? And you can just click and then you can just like either mark red and like, it's just clicking. And really that's how we see our product, is essentially is being able to see the actions that need to take place and being able to adjust, human in the loop 100%, sending it out. Okay. Next, look, adjust, send it out, next. And so that's where we're going. I'm really excited when we can get to the point where we're actually sending push notifications to the advisor on when certain cash on hand for the client becomes X amount. That's when the technology is going to get very exciting. And that's coming soon.
Good. So before we wrap up, there's 3 questions I'd like to ask everyone to end on a positive note. The first one is, if you had one wish for something to change in your company or the industry as a whole, what would it be?
This bias that 6-year-olds don't know how to use a cell phone.
Like, sorry.
I know it's like, crazy to me.
Every time I've spoken, I talk about digital transformation and show people a bunch of stuff they could use. I inevitably get, oh, my clients aren't going to use this. And my response is, really? Did you survey them? Did you ask them? Did you try? And then everybody's got this entire, oh no, but they're age, so they're not going to do that. You're telling me that they have grandkids and you think that they're not on FaceTime with their grandkids? I'm sorry, but you're wrong.
Do you think they don't know how to do this with their phone and scroll? like
Yeah,
through
like,
Facebook.
and reality is that I throw it back and say, look, all you're telling me about is your unwillingness to adapt or your lack of comfort with technology, right? You're projecting that, but and then the last piece of this is always, they always think, oh, people, my clients won't use this. I'm like, okay, you're right. Some of them won't. Some of them won't.
And that's okay.
But if your adoption rate is meaningful, call it 50%, how much better does that make your life and your engagements? This entire thing of, oh, I'm going to not have them all move over. They don't all have to move over. Who cares?
So yes, so all
I just read
this.
your playbook.
And then this is also what they need to know is people, I feel like advisors right now, they always just look back at their book and they never think about what is to come. And so, yeah, get your most profitable clients, your best clients, get them on the app. But then when you onboard a new client, like there is no habits to break. This is the first thing you introduce. And guess what? They will just use this because that is what they know. And so there's all this thought around, current clients, and can't even tell you how many times I've heard it. And I just need to get like a video of my mom or something saying I never use my desktop. I'm actually like on my iPad and my phone. And I think that would be a good enough video to maybe overcome the objection. I'm not sure, but yes, removing that bias, please.
I would love one of these days, I'm going to find data on the demographics of people who buy iPhones and iPads, and I'm gonna just go walk around with it and be like, oh, really? This many million?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, deep breath. Okay.
Yeah. And I guess as for the company, I'm trying to think.
Well, it's either or. You can answer both.
Yeah, there's a lot. We'll stay at that. That will, I guess for the company wise is I think looking back, there's a lot of, I would say that we were probably developing things like you just mentioned it, talk to your clients, and we do a darn good job doing that. But I think there's a few things that we did that we spent research and time on that actually, if we just would have talked more to our clients, then they probably would have said, yeah, you probably shouldn't focus on this. You should probably just do this. And what do you know? They're right. So that's what I would say.
Fair enough. Second question, what's been the biggest challenge getting the company to where it is today?
Yeah, I'll be honest with the audience. What we provide changes the way that you deliver advice, but it's good change. This isn't a technology that you flip on. This isn't a technology that sits in the back. This is your brand that you work so hard on going into the pockets of your most important clients. And it's their way to actually engage with you. And so there's always going to be a challenge. We understand how important delivering everything to perfection is. And so even though the onboarding process certainly isn't extremely fast, we do a great job. But yeah, this is a piece of technology that kind of shifts the business, but in the right direction.
Excellent. And the last question is, what keeps you getting out of bed in the morning to keep on fighting the good fight?
What keeps me
Getting out of bed every morning to keep on fighting the good fight.
Yeah. Our mission, and this is just what the whole team goes on, is we believe the advisor's voice can change the world 100 times faster than numbers and graphs. And I'm sure I sure know people, they get divorced about money. They don't have their state in order. Just so much chaos around money. There's people that are healthy and there's people that are not healthy. And it's cool that we can really make a change with our clients, but it's even more fulfilling when we hear about the stories of them making a positive change with their clients because of what they're gifted at, which is communication and staying top of mind and walking clients through difficult times.
Thank you for that. And thank you for taking the time.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. This is awesome. Appreciate it.
So that was Tom Fields of Fynancial. That's again, Fynancial with a Y. So if you're interested in bringing the application world or living on your client's phone in some way, shape, or form, be sure to reach out to Fynancial. As always, if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, or wherever it is you get your podcasts. And until next time, take care.
This podcast was brought to you by Woodgate Financial, an award-winning financial planning firm catering to high net worth individuals and their families. To learn more, go to woodgate.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or find more episodes at jasonpereira.ca.